Okay, so let's begin by taking refuge in generating the enlightened mind attitude. Until I have reached full awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By means of beneficial actions such as generosity, may I attain enlightenment in order to benefit beings. Until I have reached full awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By means of beneficial actions such as generosity, may I attain enlightenment in order to benefit beings. Until I have reached full awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By means of beneficial actions such as generosity, may I attain enlightenment in order to benefit beings. May all beings find happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the perfect happiness that is free from suffering. May they abide in great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings find happiness in the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the perfect happiness that is free from suffering. May they abide in great equanimity, free from attachment and far. May all beings find happiness in the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering in the cause of suffering. May they not be separated from the perfect happiness that is free from suffering. May they abide in great equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Let's take a moment to make sure we are here. Before we arrive, we may have been very busy and let all of these fade away, disappear into the past. We might have some ideas and projects for after this sitting. Leave it on hold for now and come to appreciate the moment and the freedom that we have right now. Now that we are here and fully present to this moment, we can pay attention and we begin to pay attention to our posture. The way we sit has a direct influence on the state of our mind, therefore it's important. First, we notice the contact with the ground, whether we sit on a chair or directly on the floor. We can sense this support that we receive from the earth and a sense of gratitude can come in our heart. Our hands may be resting palms down flat on our thighs, or in the meditation gesture, right hand in the left, both resting in the lap. Our shoulders are slightly outstretched so that our back is straight, but without unnecessary tensions. And as we straighten our back and open our shoulder, we sense maybe a little tension in the area of the abdomen. And as we breathe in and out, we let it drop and relax. until we begin to feel really the center of gravity of our body, which is slightly below the navel. Now we can really sense that we are sitting and we are stable, yet not rigid. The chin is slightly tucked in to help the head to be in the line of the spine. The mouth is relaxed and the tongue is lightly touching the palate. Our gaze is directed straight ahead, eyes half closed, slightly downward in a soft and open vision of what is in front of us. Now, this being said, if at times we feel more comfortable when closing our eyes, feel free to do so. Now we can pay attention to the breath as it comes and goes, mostly through the nostrils, in a very natural flow that we don't need to modify. We notice the flow, sometimes deep and sometimes more shallow and faster. It is what it is, and it's fine. The breath will offer us a point of reference towards which we can come back when we're drifting. We notice we're following a train of thoughts and we maybe are a bit lost. We can come back to the breath, maybe count the breathing cycles if that helps. Or just follow the movement of the breath as it comes in and goes out through your nostrils. And now, of course, thoughts, sense perceptions will keep appearing, and we don't need to suppress them violently as if they were enemies, but we don't need to entertain them and play with them endlessly either. We simply notice their presence. We notice them when they arise, and we notice them when they disappear. We notice that our mind is like the sky, vast and unobstructed. And all the thoughts and sense perceptions, they're just like cloud passing by, never harming the sky. So they arise and disappear of their own accord. And as we don't try to control the movement of thoughts and sense perceptions anymore, there is a sense of peace that is felt in our mind. Our mind expands, vastness and peace combined with clarity. And that's where we stay. This is our home for now. Feel free to stretch or move a bit if you need. So today I had to take the book Path to Awakening because there are 6 points to remember and it's too much for me. So I need my cliff notes. It's a very interesting point. Do not be misdirected. Or Trungpa Rinpoche puts it as, do not misinterpret. I thought of misplaced also, you know, like you sort of attribute a certain quality to a wrong object. So anyway, that's the general and idea. And so this is here connected with virtues and qualities, let's say, that we are trying to cultivate. And we have to be really make sure that they are properly guided in the right direction. So it's always a reflection on, it's not just because it's good that it's well intended. How do we say, like the way to hell is paved with good intentions. Okay, so that's the idea. Make sure when you, let's say, and then let's begin. There's 6 objects, qualities. So the first one is misdirected patience. Okay, patience is a quality, right? Obviously we need that, but if it's misdirected, maybe you have no patience to practice Dharma and cultivate something that makes sense, because it's kind of like tiring, it's complicated, it's sort of like changing my habits and I don't like it. So I don't have patience, but we have a lot of patience when it comes to activities that will pull you down to the lower realms. There you have a lot of patience. Okay, the old habits. It seems that we have patience with that. Patience in the sense of like, it's hard and then, but let's do it, you know. Once Dudjom Rinpoche was a great master of the last century, said, living in this world requires a lot of efforts, and they lead nowhere, really. While the practice of Dharma requires a lot of efforts, but they have a purpose. They lead somewhere. They help you go beyond the ignorance and the suffering that comes from it. So make sure that your patience is properly directed. That's the first one. Intention, misdirected intention. Any intention or wish to gain pleasure for this life only is misdirected intention. Like short-term vision. You should really have a very broad and very vast end game. Sometimes we feel, you know, like, okay, you know, if I secure good job, good family, everything, then maybe I'll be in a good position to practice, you know, Dharma and, you know, deepen my wisdom and so on and so forth. And so this is a wrong, misdirected intention. Misdirected enjoyment. When you do not enjoy abiding by the Dharma and creating positive causes, and instead you take pleasure in amoral conduct and activities, this is misdirected enjoyment. That's quite radical. I haven't heard Rinpoche often saying immoral, as far as I remember. But basically it's like carelessness, you know, and you just, how do you say that? You know, you go with a usual flow. And there's a sense of satisfaction. I don't know how to explain that. You know, there is sort of like a short-term vision satisfaction that's it's kind of a cheap, like all the things we buy made from China. And I'm the first one to buy things made in China. Where else? We don't pay the real price. It's a cheap enjoyment. But then the real price, which is the environmental price, the human price, the social price, will hit us at some point, sooner or later. So we have a misplaced enjoyment. It's on cheap things. Things that are going to be sustainable and of value are more expensive. And they last longer. They don't have an obsolescence in the design. They are fixable. And they don't have the, how you say that? The hype obsolescence. Like you need to change it because it's outdated. You know, so a lot of things in this world are based on that. If you have it, it's a social status. You don't want to know how much it costs really and where it was and how it was made. It's misdirected enjoyment. We don't see what comes after that. And, you know, to recycle, to be a little bit more cautious about, you know, the things we buy and how they're produced and how we use them, and all of this seems like so heavy sometimes. You know, we feel like we're sort of a very strict Calvinist, you know, like no joy whatsoever. Every smile will be punished, you know. That's not the idea. You can have a rich enjoyment and a cheap enjoyment. That's the idea, misdirected enjoyment. Misdirected pity/compassion. Okay, misdirected pity is when you feel sorry for people who are practicing the Dharma or benefiting others. Like a very, very wealthy gentleman gave a lot of land in France, both to Karmapa and Dudjom Rinpoche, to create the centers that, I mean, I come from there. A lot of benefit, I mean, not I am a great benefit, but a lot of benefit come from there. And it, like literally broke. I remember once when he was selling the last piece of property, he asked a friend of mine, like there was like 4 still good tires if he could sell them. This guy who was a millionaire, and he was selling, you know, like, because he was broke. And misdirected compassion/pity is just like, oh, I pity you. You gave all your money for these projects and so on and so forth, and now you're broke. I'm so sad. You know, like, keep your pity for people who really suffer. This guy cultivated generosity. When he gave his property, Karmapa told him, no, take out of the property you give me as many properties as needed for each of your children. Each of your children must have one first. So he had like, I don't know, he gave like 20 houses and land. I mean, just huge. And so he took out of this and gave to each of his children one property, so that his children didn't feel spoliated, right? But otherwise, it just gave everything. And then the last part of his life, he was working for peace in the world. And so he spent the last money he had, tried to calm down the Cold War and the escalation. And he spent his last penny when Reagan met Gorbachev. You could say, okay, that was a waste of money because it happened anyway, but he contributed. He made booklets, and he wanted to take a child from each country, put them in a big plane and go to each of the, like Russia and the US and elsewhere, for this kid to advocate for the peace in the world and our future. Okay, he was broke. This is not the pity. Pity is, you know, it's sort of like connected to, oh, if I was like him, I would definitely would have kept some money for me. You know, this guy was utterly generous, you know, and his children followed him in a way because they just continue the same generosity. So keep your compassion for people who have real problem. Misdirected focus. The focus is when you misdirected, when you only direct people towards what is temporary benefit in this life, rather than help them to really work on what will be a long-lasting, ultimate benefit, sustainable benefit that the Dharma affords, and that is really misdirected. I guess, you know, if you're like in a position where you can share the Dharma, be a teacher of some sort, maybe sometime you feel like, well, and I feel that often, I must say, maybe I should water down a little bit the Dharma because it's just too hard to take, you know, and it's so much work and so much effort. So let's work on peace and happiness, you know, be happy. And you see that now in sort of like the self-help scene. It's all about happiness, you know, happiness. And that's misdirected focus. Happiness is a byproduct of freedom. And freedom is not cheap, and it's not easy, and you have to let go a lot. And so sometimes I wondered, you know, I said, like, I wonder if the teachings of the Buddha were meant for the mass of people, because they require so much presence, commitment, letting go. Not everybody is there, you know. And so, yes, you have to teach the on-ramp to this, you know, larger perspective, which is pretty much, you know, like, you're in pain. Maybe that can help you to get out of your pain. Okay. And then this will help you proper actions and avoiding negative actions. Basically a healthy diet. Okay. This will help you to feel better, a bit more stable and so on. Once you're there, oh, let's talk about the real thing. Okay. But if you only think about a provisory one, it's misdirected focus. You really have to keep in mind the end game. You don't have to present it right away if people are not at the point where they can digest it. It's just too much. They're just gonna puke it, you know. But you should never forget the ultimate. Never. Always being sort of like able to deal with the relative and sort of include the relative in a larger, more radical and complete and absolute perspective. So otherwise it's misdirected focus. And again, you know, it's really difficult. You know, it's really difficult because, you know, I don't know, maybe it's your silly good heart. You don't want to scare people by presenting a picture that's, you know, like, you know, go on them like Greta Thunberg, you know, like, how dare you, you know. It's just like, it's counterproductive in a way. That's okay with her because that's her shtick and she's totally in it. And that the Asperger part of it, that's cool. Just go for that, you know. But so we always try to compromise and water down, and so that just like people come and sit, you know, just sit a little bit, please, you know. Even the great Atisha, when he was invited and came to Tibet, you know, his attendants were very poor. People were very busy in being, you know, like rich and famous and have money and control other tribes, and it was fighting among tribes and so on. he would teach in the evenings and serve soup. So Dharma class, soup provided. I don't know how many people came for the soup, but his focus was not, I'm selling soup. I'm teaching mind training. So that is not misdirected focus. And then the last one is misdirected rejoicing. Misdirected rejoicing is when you cheer someone on as a hero when he or she is actually engaging in harmful activities and creating negative karma. Like we have all these heroes, we see them and then we think like, oh, that's really great. And he or she achieved that. And it's just ego feast, and then we're all excited, like all the celebrities whose only value is to be known. And, we spend time looking like, oh, what did he say? What did she say? We're on Twitter, we're on social media. I know a lot of you do that. But anyway, it happens in the world. I know a lot of you are beyond that, but it happens, and one of my by joke apologizes, why do they look so cool? Because they have a lot of fans around them. Okay, so that's misdirected rejoicing. And then we tend to ignore people who are doing like small things, that seems to be unnecessary and so on. Like, okay, let's be local. First Baptist Church organized this, they had this idea of collecting cloth and, all sorts of shoes and socks and whatnot. People who are displaced, and that mostly from Ukraine and that mostly in Poland now. And, it's just like, okay, it's a church, that's their job. They're just here to do good. But suddenly I thought very personally, like Wendell and I, we just said like, yeah. And we just like dove in our closet and just did the thing that we were like dreaming of doing for a long time. Just to get rid of all the things that we never used that could be used by other people, but we sort of like keep fear, greed, habit, laziness, I don't know. And it was so joyful, it was just like, I just had to keep an eye on like, don't shave too close to the skin, okay? Just keep some. Just like, and Wendelin went there yesterday, it was just the final day collecting. And she said that they had so many things. It's just amazing, just the county here. Like people have been so generous and they needed help to pack and so on. And, you got all these rejoicing, maybe kind of like, or excitement about celebrities and what they do and so on. And then you got these tiny little details, because it's a detail, it's big because it's our county, but it's a detail. And this guy is like, how are they going to take this, like to Poland? They found the way to get trucks going to Erndon. They're going to consolidate everything, and they ship the how do you say it? Rented a plane. Okay, the plane that leaves from DC and goes to Poland directly to bring that. Okay, so this make me happy. Make me happy because it helped me to do what I couldn't do in my own closet. Okay, it made me happy to see that people were taking, had empathy and wanted to help other people. And it'll help me to see that this county is generous. When sometimes you're so focused on blue and red, okay, that you forget. Because I don't know if these socks were blue or red. Okay, they were love, they were care. And so this is a really properly directed joy. This is the joy because it makes sense. It helps people in a moment which is really difficult in their life. It helps everybody to be generous, help everybody to be creative. And, First Baptist, my wife went there as a good Buddhist. And of course, the pastor is like, you're with which church? And she said, well, I'm with the Buddhist church. Oh, First Baptist. Okay. So you can think about in prejudice terms. Okay. And he said, I went in a Buddhist temple once when I was visiting India, and all of this happened. And this is tremendous source of joy. I couldn't care less about the people who are, rich and famous. The real simple joys of direct and positive action on many, many levels. Many levels. So don't be misdirected. Don't let your patience, intention, enjoyment, compassion/pity, focus and rejoicing be misdirected. That was the advice of the day. Let's go back to our cushion. Well, we're on the cushion, so just sit. Let's share the merit and the quality of our meditation with everybody. Through this merit, may I attain true omniscience. Then, having overcome all harmful, destructive forces, may I liberate sentient beings from the ocean of existence and its turbulent waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. May the most precious mind of awakening that has not yet dawned now rise. Once arisen, may it never decline. May it continue to increase evermore. Thank you all very much. Goodbye, friends over the internet. Be well and see you next week.